Hey, what up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you. Basically, been watching the Olympics the last few days. Can't wait till USA men's hockey gets underway. Get that women's stuff off my TV. It's kind of just sort of like there. It is what it is. I've been watching a lot of the boring winter sports. It's not as fun as the summertime is, but it's still all right. I was watching figure skating last night. I did finally get a chance to go out and see the Lego Movie. It was one of the best movies I've seen in a long time. I laughed, I cried, I had a good time. I can't wait till it's on DVD and I can own it and watch it again and again and again. But the purpose of the video is talking about none other than CM Punk. There's a lot of people, them giving their opinions. A lot of wrestlers have different podcasts. I've just started getting into the Chris Jericho, Talk is Jericho podcast. I've listened to the Chavo Guerrero episodes, and I've listened to both of the Edge episodes, and both of them are really, really good. I do have a knock against them with the Stone Cold Steve Austin podcast. For the one reason of, if you know a lot about the wrestler, it's hard to listen to normally the first time they sit down and they talk. Like when Stone Cold interviewed Roddy Piper, they told a whole lot of stories that are on the Born to Controversy DVD from Roddy Piper. It's basically the WWE documentary that they've done in the past. The first episode of Edge, they told a whole lot of stories that were from his training and getting into wrestling, writing the essay and so on and so forth and things like that. Maybe sometimes they might add a little bit to the story that you didn't know, but for the most part, 95% of what's going on. I highly recommend both of those. I think they're really, really good, and you should check those out. But, listening to everything, there's not a lot of CM Punk news. Other than, WWE, there's a lot of people there who don't really want CM Punk to come back. It's been sort of speculated that Triple H honestly really feels like, CM Punk sort of pie-faced them and, sort of disrespected him by leaving the WWE, mainly because he didn't want to go to WrestleMania and have a match with him. It's been well known that Punk has been saying that he's not going to re-sign with the WWE. So you can think that maybe Punk might be thinking that since he's going to be leaving, Triple H will get the big win over him. He can feed his ego. Honestly, in my opinion, with him moving over into that slot, Triple H, I don't really see him as a guy who needs to win anymore, and I think CM Punk, probably is thinking that, but honestly, I think Triple H is smart enough to know that, his career as the guy that needs to get put over, I think, is done, and he knows that in order to make stars, he has to use his own star power in order to get those guys over, and people beating him is a big thing, only if he has, maybe 1, 2, 3 at the most matches a year. Same thing Vince did, year in, year out. But Jericho has come out and talked about the Punk situation. Stone Cold Steve Austin talked about it. Colt Cabana talked about it. Of course, Colt Cabana's going to talk about it. One of my favorite things from any of the Assault and Battery 777 Day in the Life videos was an ROH show that was in Toronto. And I want to say this was like, This was well before Money in the Bank. This is when stories first started coming out that CM Punk wasn't going to re-sign, that he was going to, leave WWE before Money in the Bank. And, Money in the Bank wasn't even thought of yet. He wasn't a number one contender. This was like when the story was very, very small. It was first starting to develop that Punk was going to leave. Ravi stuck his camera in front of Colt Cabana's face and said, I bet you know what's going to happen with CM Punk. And Colt Cabana just said, I knew everything's going to happen, and I'm not telling you. And, it's awesome that maybe if Colt did know what was going to happen and didn't want to tell us to make it that much better for us, congratulations to him. Maybe he didn't know. Maybe he just wanted to make himself seem like it was a bigger deal. It must suck to be Colt because I think like half the people in the world, just think of Colt Cabana instead of being a wrestler as just, CM Punk's like best friend. And I think he's smart enough to know that people are using him for information and he doesn't give it to them. And it just, you see so many people, when they go up to meet Colt, they don't want to talk about Colt the wrestler. They want to talk about CM Punk and what it's like to be his friend and stuff like that. And I don't know. Colt's a good guy. It just must suck to be put in that situation. But the best tip of news that I've heard of anything was from the Stone Cold Steve Austin podcast, and with Stone Cold saying that, that when he walked out of the WWE in 2002, he was in breach of contract, the checks stopped coming, and that he wasn't getting paid anymore. It wasn't the fact that he needed money. He was a big time success in WWE. For the most part, Stone Cold always talks about how he saved his money and didn't blow it on big things. He had times in his life when he bought big cars and big houses and things like that, but he wasn't really hurting for money. He wasn't going out looking for a part-time job or anything like that. If he just kept his butt at home, lived on his so-called budget there, he'd be able to make it and pull it through. But basically everything from WWE was locked off. It didn't matter if somebody went on the website and they bought a Stone Cold Steve Austin shirt or a Stone Cold Steve Austin DVD or anything from the past that involved Stone Cold Steve Austin. He would normally get a royalty check in the mail, and that shit adds up and adds up fast. If you're CM Punk, think of how much stuff that they have your face on. Everybody in the world owns the Best in the World DVD, but I'm betting that they're still selling them like hotcakes. If you go to WWE shop, they haven't put his stuff on clearance. They haven't even taken him off the the front page of the site. They keep on selling his stuff like there's nothing going on. He's the second highest mover of licensed products through WWE shop behind John Cena. So the whole CM Punk situation isn't really hurting WWE in the long run because they're still selling shit left and right. And if they don't have to pay his royalty fees, in the long run, they're making more money now just because they happen to have the guy under contract. But moving into the future, WWE is, going to be launching into the network, and the network is going to be one of the biggest gambles that they've ever taken. Some people might say they might be put more money into the XFL, but I debate that, thinking that, how big this really could be, whether if it's a huge success or a huge failure. It's going to be one or the other. I don't really see this as landing somewhere in the middle, but in the long run, I do think that there are a few cheap people out there in the YWC land who will not sign up for the network, thinking that they're going to be able to watch stuff on Daily Motion, or they're going to be able to watch stuff off of a stream, or they'll be able to watch stuff on YouTube, this, that, or the other. Honestly, it's only $10, and I do not understand how you cannot get yourself, your mom, your dad, your uncle. I mean, like, every wrestling fan, I think, I don't want to say it like that, but I think every wrestling fan out there owes it to WWE to sign up and get the network. For how much stuff they're going to give us for that little amount of money is huge. I mean, there's definitely, somebody said it's like 30 cents a day. And I mean, like, even if you don't watch it but once a week, I mean, you're going to get your money's worth. If you watch it once a month, just on those special pay-per-view days, it's going to be well worth it, especially if you order, WrestleMania. There's $70 of your $60 commitment for your first 6 months. You're already coming out $10 ahead with, 6 more months of entertainment packed on top of that. So, quit your bitching. But, no one really knows. There's a special calculation on how they add up to see who is going to get what when it comes down to, WrestleMania bonuses and this, that, or the other. And I guess that's going to be a soon-to-be so-called thing of the past. I guess there'll be a bonus that comes off of the live gate. But, I mean, there's no real way to add up, who gets what buys. And plus, everything's going to be thrown into this network in the long run. So, I mean, like, a pay-per-view like Extreme Rules, you should be getting the same sort of, royalty payout as, a prime time from 1988 with the Rockers going up against the Powers of Pain. There's going to be a lot of money flowing in to these wrestlers based off of this network, off of what shows they choose to air and what shows they tend to put up on demand. If CM Punk is in breach of contract and rides out the end of his deal and doesn't re-sign, he will never receive another royalty check from WWE unless it's just out of the kindness of the heart of Vince McMahon, which honestly, when it comes down to it, and business is business, and when Luke Cage 29 met Scott Hall said that, he's never been paid royalties on DVDs, networks, anything of the past because of what happened, back in 1996 when, he left WWE and sort of screwed Vince by showing up on WCW, and Vince sort of holds that grudge against them because of how they went in there and acted like they were, still WWF guys, which forced them to sue WCW. If they're going to hold, payments from a guy like Scott Hall, who's best buddies with none other than Triple H himself, aren't they going to do the same thing with CM Punk, a guy that is sort of like, people have said that, he doesn't get along with Triple H as well. But huge gamble. Good advice from Stone Cold Steve Austin. If you listen to the call-in show, just put your tail between your legs. Go back. You only have to finish up your deal, which comes in June. You go in, punch the clock, punch out, go home. Before you know it, it's going to be over and done with. You'll be getting them checks in the mail. And, if you don't want to do wrestling anymore, there's always things out there, stand-up comedy. They were throwing things out there to be a UFC commentator. The world is your oyster, CM Punk. Just give the wrestling fans what they want, show up to work, tip your hat at the end of the day, take that huge pop and that huge applause, and ride it off into the sunset. You never know. WWE might not want to go and have you job out the rest of your days. They might want to just use you for WrestleMania and then just tell you to go home and write out your contract that way. You're happy, Vince is happy, and the checks keep coming. It's all about that money, baby.